Go into propolis a little bit. Let's go into oral health. Like, what's going on in people's mouths? You got the herpes simplex 1, you got the cold sores, you got herpes simplex 2. Yeah. Herpes simplex 1, herpes simplex 2 in people's mouths. Some people got 2 varieties of cold sores. They'll have a fever blister that looks a little different, does something a little different, and then they'll have like cold sores on the outside of their mouth. Then they'll have cold sores in their nose. Fever blisters in their nose. It's a herpes simplex 1 or 2. And the key is immune system for battling that. That's a big deal. Immune system. Okay, so let's cut into it right here. Okay? So gums that recede because bacteria that's not good is working on them and trying to break them down and try to eat away at them. So that's one thing that happens. Receding gums, they get real thin, they start to break down, they start to, right? They start to decay. One of the reasons why for receding gums, one of the reasons is people have a lot of metals in their system. They got mercury in their system. They got mercury in their gums that's sitting in there. They got mercury in their tongue. People have mercury in their tongue. Yeah, they do. Like if people's tongues were dissected, if people's tongues were, when someone dies, and if they did this thing where they remove the tongue, instead of cutting open the brain and pretending they actually are looking inside somebody's brain, which really they don't. Terrible. I mean, they slice the brains when they do the experiments, right? When someone donates their brain to science, or science buys it without them knowing. Did you hear about that lately? Did you hear about that? Because I've heard about it for decades. Let's go into oral health a little bit. So tongues are toxic. They are. And it's hard on our immune system when we have these toxic tongues. Very hard on our immune system in our mouth area. Lymphatic vessels, lymphatic system, the whole bit. There's a tongue right here. You take a look right there. There's a tongue. You see? It's right underneath the eyeball. Our immune system is guarding our tongue. We have a lot of immune cells in our tongue. And there's a reason for that. Tongues get attacked. Tongues get a lot of cancers. Tongues get a lot of different herpes viruses. Tongues get different kinds of bacteria, infested in them. So it's a big part of how our immune system is always like under a battle, under a war, in a war. It's a big part of it. Tongue gets toxic. Okay, for multitudes of reasons. One is it's highly absorbent. Things we put in our mouth can go into a tongue faster than they stick around in the bowel. That's right. Faster than they stick around in the bowel. You ready for this too? Something can absorb in the tongue that's toxic that you're eating or something like that. Say you're eating some tuna. Then you're doing like the mercury thing. You're eating tuna. I got a friend that says, I'm eating this wild caught tuna. I said, really? You like mercury? So what happens is, say you're eating that tuna, right? Well, your tongue will absorb the mercury first. It will. It'll absorb the mercury first. Before, guess what? Your liver. And your liver is going to absorb it next. It is. It's going to go down in the stomach and down in the duodenum, down the small intestinal tract, down in the gut. It is. And then it's going to be absorbed. It's going to go up the hepatic portal highway into the liver, into your liver, right? Your liver's just going to suck it up and absorb it up, whatever it is, and take it all in. But your tongue had first dibs. First dibs. Another thing interesting, your tongue has to have a lot of blood. It has to have a lot of blood flow. Lots of blood flow, you guys. Lots. Because it has that hyper blood flow in your tongue. Somebody gets their tongue pierced. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. If someone wants to do that, it's up to whoever wants to do that. But it's a shock to the tongue because the immune system needs the tongue just kind of left alone and, doing what it needs to do, I had another friend who had their tongue pierced many years ago, and I told him you should take that piercing out and just let it heal. Just let it heal, But to each their own. People do what they want to do. I mean, I'm not judging anybody. It is what it is. But the tongue is inherently vascular. It just is. So what that means is it pulls. What that word is, it means that the blood pulls there. It does. It pulls there a lot, and then it drops off a lot of toxins. Our tongues get toxic. Our tongues get toxic just like our livers get toxic. They just get toxic. So not only do tongues absorb when you eat something, so if you're eating like tuna fish and the mercury will go into your tongue, it'll actually enter it and stay in there. But here's the other thing. You think the tongue is vascular, hypervascular? What about the heart? That's why I tell people you're into all kinds of like organ meats and stuff like that. Do not eat hearts. They're so toxic because they're so vascular. And the toxins pull there, you know. It's really a rough one. I mean, you know, people don't know, but again, it's all about the trends. It's not about really people healing in the end. It's about the trends. And then when the trends don't really work or they die out or they shift, then it's on to a new trend, but it's not about people healing. It's sad. Lena, what about dental fillings? Same as with tuna. Of course, if you got the amalgams, if you got the silver fillings and stuff, if you had the silver fillings, yeah, I mean, it absorbs into the tongue. Absolutely. Our tongues get toxic. It absorbs things, and then our immune system gets compromised in our mouths. But our immune systems get compromised in everybody's mouth. It's also why the herpes viruses are so vigilant. They're so hyper catchy that some people catch them, boom, they got it. Some people, it takes 2 years, right? You're smooching with someone, whatever, and you're on the dating scene, and then everything seems okay. You don't have anything, nothing's happening, whatever. Next thing you know it, 2 years later, you break out with your first cold sore. You're at the doctor. That's a cold sore. That's a fever blister. Well, it came from the date 2 years ago. It just happens, right? Depends on your immune system, too. Sometimes, and it depends on what kind of varieties of bugs we're talking